What is up, everyone? Welcome to the FPL Game Week, Double Game Week 37 podcast, episode number 88. And I'm joined once again by the Football Chatbox slash FPL Side Net Podcast collab with Pete from the FPL Side Net Podcast and FPL Point Break Andrew, as well as the other half of the FPL Side Net Podcast. How are you both doing?
Good, thanks, Ryan. I was waiting for Andrew to talk first.
No, you're the boss, mate. You go first.
I'm the boss. My name's on the door. All responsibility lies with me, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm really looking forward to the season finishing. We're so close to the end, but I was just saying before we went here, I'm in a bit of a heater at the moment. I seem to be hitting the form probably at the wrong time of the season to actually do any rank damage, but having a bit of fun with it. But as always, fun to join both you guys tonight.
Fair enough. You did, like, before we started, we were like putting these crimson red arrows for Andrew and myself, and then for you with like this sparkling nice green.
Neon green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Andrew, how are you doing?
Mate, I'm all right. I have a long-standing tradition of usually finishing the season with several red arrows. So far, that's how this season's turning out as well. I've had a couple in a row. So yeah, not quite as happy as Pete, but I'm still ahead of him, so I'm happy about that.
Fair enough. That's the mini league rivalry,
Yeah.
a podcast rivalry, you'll say. Obviously, this episode is slightly different because Andrew, you're on a free hit, and Pete is on a bench boost, and myself, I'm also on a bench boost. Although I have sometimes contemplated of like, is it even worth playing the bench boost at this point in 37? Just because I'm looking at like the injuries that are floating about, and I'm wondering, oh, maybe will 38 be a decent one? But that might be just overthinking stuff. So we'll get to the fixtures and all of that. But the way we'll approach this, just for everyone who's listening, would be that we'll start with positions. So we'll talk about goalkeeper options, defenders, midfielders, and forwards, and obviously we'll mention about the template players that most of us probably have, and then see what differentials we can like try and target for those looking to chase. And also, even though we are on the free hit and a bench boost, we'll also speak about triple captaincy along with the captaincy segment for those who have that chip left as well. Shout out to everyone who's in the chat, Murphy, Ezra Shark, and anyone else watching as well. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe as well while you are here. Now, let's get started. First up, this is how the lay of the land looks like with two more game weeks to go. We got 6 teams doubling: Spurs, Chelsea, Newcastle, City, Brighton, and United. With Spurs on top of the ticker because of the Burnley and Sheffield United games. Chelsea on some hot form recently, Pete, on there as well, second in the ticker. United, the bottom of those teams in the ticker. I probably might push them even more further if like there's no Bruno Fernandes, even with an extra game. But then obviously we've got the likes of Arsenal, who are slightly lower, but to be honest, based on their form, should probably be maybe where Forest is based on their form. So we'll talk about Game Week 37, but how are you guys like looking to approach the last two games? Or last two game weeks, I should say.
Oh, so I guess this depends on your strategy. I mean, my approach is going to be very different to you guys. I'm on a free hit. I guess my approach for the last couple of weeks is to try to build a free hit that's covers all of the bases, but then has one or two little differentials or fun picks that might be a little bit risky, but might give me a good boost up the rankings. And then game week 38, I'm not even thinking about that yet, but I always love game week 38 because you have one transfer. I think everyone's going to have one transfer in 38 this year because everyone's going to be making transfers for their bench boost. I'm on a free hit, so I'm only going to have one. I like 38 because you have one transfer to pick a random flyer, and it may or may not pay off. I remember last year, I think I went for Eze, he blanked. The year before, I think I went for Mason Mount, he blanked. But they were exciting picks that, could have either blanked or got you a hat trick. And those are the kind of picks I like to go for in 38. So yeah, it's kind of about that final push just to see if you can get your rank as high as possible.
Indeed. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, having wildcarded in 35, it's all been about attacking 37 with the bench boost. So yeah, set up pretty well. I've sort of avoided a lot of the injuries that came out of game week 35. So like I didn't have Edison, I didn't have Shah. So I sort of got a little bit lucky there. But I do have Maguire and Bruno. So I definitely know Maguire's not featuring. So that's going to be one of my two free transfers heading into this. But I'm still hoping Bruno plays because he's just like so much fun in a double game week. He's like the ultimate double game week player.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes. Like you can just bank on him. But yeah, it's just been trying to attack, try and boost up that rank as much as I can and try and claim some spots in some mini leagues.
Indeed, the mini leagues, Australian Elite League survival for me. That's basically it. Meanwhile,
Get Big Sam in.
I know I probably might need Big Sam in. Andrew is looking to finish on Pete's charts in the top 10. FPL Mira, who's had a incredible resurgence, I would say, in those last few weeks, is in the chat as well. Probably even possibly looking to finish in Andrew's charts as well in the top 10 of the Australian Elite. So looking forward to the end of the season. To be honest, I kind of want like a refresh from my FPL. Like I just want to see starting from zero scratch so that I can kind of erase all the mistakes I've done in one way. But yeah, so looking forward to that. But before that, we have Euros and all of that. We'll be playing Euro Fantasy and create content for that. But that's a completely different story. Let's get into the fixtures for double game week 37. All right, so this is fixtures from Rob T FPL. And he's just updated it, so it's all up there. Before we actually get into the positions themselves, is there anything that stands out for you from here?
I think what stands out, what jumps out is the Tottenham goals prediction for that Burnley game at like 3. That's a little bit ridiculous, but considering Burnley have to attack that game, like it's probably their last chance they have of staying up. So they just got to go for it. So it probably just plays right into Ange Postecoglou football. So yeah, that we could actually see a lot of goals in that game. But yeah, that one did strike me out first.
Fair enough. Andrew?
Yeah, I think looking at Arsenal, it says 2.6 goals for Arsenal. I think I would expect at least 3 goals against Man United. So I think that's an option for everyone to have Arsenal assets, both defensive and attacking, in game week 37, despite the single fixture. The other thing is Newcastle kind of stand out to me a little bit, because to be honest, I'm a bit surprised that their predicted goals aren't a little bit higher. They're playing so well at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised for them to score sort of 6 goals in the game week, same as Man City, same as Man City might. But yeah, those are the main things.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I think the Arsenal one is very hard to tell because they need to win the game, and I think they will easily, comfortably win the game. But we said the same thing about a few other teams that came to Old Trafford as well, and the story was slightly different. So I still do expect United to get battered, and if there's no Bruno Fernandes, you might as well just like wave the white flag before the game even starts. But if there's Bruno Fernandes, it kind of changes a few things. So I do expect us to put up a fight, just because for some reason our home numbers are not too bad. Playing at home, away is just dreadful. But yeah, but we'll look at that when we get to the stats and everything. Right, so let's start with like the goalkeepers for double game week 37, and even possibly looking at game week 38 as well. Okay, first of all, since Andrew's on a free hit, he's probably looking at only one keeper. Pete, you're on a bench boost. Who are the keepers you currently have? And is there a keeper transfer being made anywhere? Or
yeah, so my 2 goalkeepers, I went for the Petrovic and Onana double up. So Petrovic has been great since I got him in on 35. He picked up a clean sheet there and another one in the previous game week. So that's gone pretty good. I basically went the entire season, I think, with 4 clean sheets. and then I've had 2 in the last 2 weeks. So
They
who
come-
knows?
Yeah. So who's your other keeper? Petrovic and Onana?
Anana,
Okay,
yeah,
fair
which
enough.
does not fill me with any confidence whatsoever.
You say
Save
that.
points. Save points.
Save
Exactly. That's the
points.
thing. Like he's
Assists.
you never know. Conceded 4, still got 2 points.
Yeah, that's right.
And Chaza is in the chat as well. Chaza is like, goalkeepers have been horrible all year. Can we get the all-out attack chip back?
Bring
Yes.
it back.
So I've got Petrovic as well, and I won't be surprised if actually Chelsea do keep. I know it's not projected here, but I won't be surprised if they do keep a clean sheet in both of their games. I think it's possible potentially. The other keeper I have is David Raya, and I have a free transfer. I have a decision to make in terms of whether I move Raya out. And if so, my keeper choices are kind of like limited, and it's basically a domino effect in terms of either go for Vicario, which will get me like triple Spurs, or I go for Onana, just like you, and just hope for the same points. My thoughts on Onana are compared to maybe Raya, he's probably like a 6-pointer, maybe a 7-pointer if he gets like a save point as well for this week. Whereas Onana has the possibilities of being like a 2-pointer in the entire double, or he's like in double digit figures just because of the fact that United have sneaked a clean sheet out of some miracle. He's just loaded up on the bonus because of the amount of saves he's made. So there's like that huge extremes for Onana. That's why I'm like wondering, do I just take the possible 6-pointer? Although I do think we'll score. Is what I feel like. At home, I think we will score. So it's probably a 2-pointer from Raya. So I'm like, okay, I'm probably looking to keep a transfer. The only thing with Vicario is if you go triple Spurs, that locks me in triple Spurs. If I wanted Richarlison as like that 1 week punt in Game Week 38, it's not possible.
Yeah.
That's the one problem.
I'm also, I mean, you know more than me, but Onana playing in front of Johnny Evans and Casemiro,
Oh, don't.
and having watched back that Palace game.
I didn't even watch it. I got up, saw the team lineup. There was no Bruno Fernandes. I went back to sleep.
That doesn't fill me with any confidence whatsoever. It might not actually be worth the transfer.
True. This is another point. When Andrew mentioned about people having 1 free transfer in Game Week 38, when you go like, oh, I have 2 free transfers. Do I really want to spend it on a goalkeeper who might not keep a clean sheet?
Yeah, it just because it's not exciting, I suppose. Yeah, you'd really need Onana to keep at least 1 clean sheet for it to pay off. But yeah, I'd probably more be confident in David Raya keeping the clean sheet for Arsenal.
Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing is like,
especially if Bruno's not playing.
Yeah, exactly. I guess the flip side to that is, I don't know how much of an impact it could make in Game Week 38.
Yeah,
Is people who have double Arsenal defense now, and if they're chasing and they want to go to double Arsenal attack in Game Week 38 just in case they needed those goals. If you have Raya, then you're like kind of locked as well. So there's so many different scenarios of like, if you pick this, you're kind of like set in motion for 38 as well. That there's so many like different scenarios that happen. Like, I don't know. Andrew?
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, yeah, getting rid of, if you have double Arsenal defense, getting rid of Raya now gives you the opportunity to take a punt on like a Havertz in Game Week 38. If you've already got Saka, for example. But and then the Richarlison point that you made as well is interesting too. Like, he would be a good punt in 38. So having Vicario, does that lock you out of the Richarlison punt? I think that there's a lot of good punts for 38 that that are there and that may emerge. So I think that really you've just got to focus on 37 with the goalkeeper. Make the decision based on 37, and there will be a good punt to take in 38, no matter which goalkeeper you choose.
I was just going to say, if you take out the doubles out of double Game Week 37 and you look at it from a single perspective, the best one on paper is Everton Sheffield.
Yes.
Yep.
So maybe it's just worth getting Pickford in, because I think that's probably that's their last home game of the season as well.
Yeah, and Are they moving to? Aren't they moving to a new stadium?
Yeah. Next,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's at the start of next season or halfway through, but yeah, on paper, and I think they've kept like 4 clean sheets the last 4 home matches. So
They do have a terrible 38 though. So
no, 38's
Yes.
terrible. They'll
Against
they'll
Arsenal.
it
they'll
depends on
phone
who
that
you
in.
yeah, it depends on who your other keeper is, obviously. Because I wouldn't want to play
Petrovic.
Pickford in 38.
Yeah, you got
Petrovic.
Petrovic in 38 is good because they're at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so that's not an issue at all.
yeah, so at least you know that way you're not blocking yourself off from triple Spurs or triple Arsenal in 38, and it's a really good option for 37 as well.
Yeah, and Pickford tends to get bonus points when he gets a
Yes.
clean sheet as well. So, you're not talking like I think Vicario, if Tottenham get a clean sheet, that's 6 points probably. But
Yeah.
Pickford if they win 1-0, Pickford makes 3 saves, he could get 3
10-pointer at
bonus and
least.
have a 10-pointer.
Yep.
I've experienced I've had Pickford for the last few weeks and he's just done amazing things for me. It's just amazing how many times he gets bonus points and save points on top of the clean sheet.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because if you look at it, right, if anyone had him, that would be the main the comfortable bench boost in him, and even Brantford is the same thing. You're just it's almost a guaranteed clean sheet. Now, obviously, Sheffield United can score, but I'm gonna put it past them. But because Everton don't score as many goals, Pickford is very well capable of a 10-pointer, and a 10-pointer in a double game week for a goalkeeper is probably pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The other, if you are going to consider a single game week keeper, the other one, who's not the worst option is Travers from Bournemouth as well, simply because he's only 4.0. So if money's tight and you need that money, elsewhere in your team, or you might, you need it for the punt that you've got in mind in 38, then yeah, and he's home to Brentford in 37. So if money is an issue, then he's a decent option as well. Like it says that their clean sheet odds are only 23%, but I feel like that's a bit conservative. I feel like they're a decent shout of a clean sheet home to Brentford. I mean, Travers has kept 2 clean sheets out of 3, I think, since he's come into the team.
Yeah. The one thing is, I remember I said this to Pete. I put it on the group chat on the FPL Ops group chat when I was wildcarding. I was like, when I didn't have Jackson, I was like, my main mistake this season was when the doubles presented themselves, I didn't take the opportunity. And again, this time also, I didn't take the opportunity in 35. And it just backfired big time. I went for Watkins, thought it was a good fixture. They decided to put 0.0 XG against Brighton. I'm like, what?
I made the same mistake, man. So
that's the one thing that is putting me off Pickford was when the doubles are presenting themselves, I'm not taking it, and I've made that mistake every single double this season, and I'm like, do I really want to make it again in the final double? But the fixtures screams out as a clean sheet, and it probably might end up being, but it's just that you want to get that double, especially when you're bench boosting. You kind of want to see as many fixtures on your bench boost, because at that point you're trying to compete with others who don't have a bench boost. You might as well just put on that extra fixture at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, and goalkeeper hauls are so random. So you're just buying yourself an extra ticket to the lottery by having a double game week keeper as well.
Yeah,
2 chances for a random clean sheet with 9 saves, or 2 chances at a pen save.
Yeah.
So it's I guess you're putting yourself in a position to get lucky a bit more if you go for a double game week keeper.
One final thing. People who have Dubravka. Now that's a tough spot to be in. What do they do? Stick or twist?
I think it's still a hold until Pope actually plays. We still don't know when. I know he was on the bench in the last game week, but we still don't know exactly when he's going to actually be playing. And Eddie Howe's not going to tell us anyway. So, I mean, if you've got the luxury of having a transfer, then you could use it to remove him. But, I mean, is Pope going to play all 3 games for the rest of the season? I doubt it. I mean, Dubravka's done pretty well.
I think the issue is if Pope plays 1 out of 2, then you've lost another double game week, all right?
Yeah.
And I can see that happening. I'd be surprised if Pope didn't play at least one in the next 3 weeks. He might get one of the 2 games in the double, just to give him some minutes ahead of the Euros. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one because to get from him to another double game week keeper, it's a transfer that can be used elsewhere, isn't
Yeah.
it? And it has to be an upgrade really because he's that cheap.
And yeah, that's
so
true.
it's going to cost you some money as well.
Yeah. And there aren't that many, like we've just been discussing, there aren't that many goalkeepers who are very tempting per se to try and like get in as well.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on your team. Like I think Edison's probably, if you're looking at it in isolation, he's probably the best goalkeeper for the double game week. But there's obviously a whole bunch of other Man City assets that are better that you want to use your 3 Man City slots on. But if you're in a position where you don't have, you've only got Haaland from Man City, for example, then why not use one transfer to bring in Edison, and then you maybe use your other one to bring in a second attacking asset from City. If you're a Dubravka owner, that's something you could consider.
The other thing mentioned in the chat by FPL Freddy is if you do sell Dubravka, you can possibly free yourself up for like a third Newcastle player, which could be a potential Callum Wilson, which we'll get to later in the forward discussion, or even those who want to go for a Dan Burn instead because they have like a Maguire and they're like, oh, just kind of fixes itself by doing that move. So those are a couple different options, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. So just to wrap up, I guess Petrovic, good double game keeper to hold. Everyone else is just a lottery pick, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. But where would you rank? Would you rank Vicario higher as the second, or Edison, Vicario? I guess
I'd have Edison second for sure. Vicario, Spurs just don't keep clean sheets. I'm not even confident they'll keep a clean sheet against Burnley. And that's really the only chance they have of keeping a clean sheet.
Fair
and as far as Brighton goes, there's Bart or Steele, but yeah, they're shocking.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I agree.
Defenders. Now, let's just kind of assume people have one Arsenal defender minimum. FPL Mira says she's going to clip this. So I don't know with regards to the goalkeeper discussion. But let's say for Arsenal defense, the template is everyone has an Arsenal defender minimum. Then you've got the likes of Guardiola, whereas some have Edison in return, one of the two. People have Spurs defender, potentially, Pedro Porro. Chelsea defense is a very interesting one because I know people stuck with Gusto. For those who wildcarded earlier, they've kept Gusto. Some who wildcarded, including like Tiger and Good and Chat, I recommended going with Cucurella, and I guess that is kind of paid off. Then, what other defense? Am I missing any other defense? Oh, Newcastle defense. People might have Dan Burn. Some might have gone double Newcastle defense with like Fabian Schär and Dan Burn. And they might have to look to make a difference, like a swap. And then obviously there's Man United defense with, you've got Maguire, I've got Dalot myself. So those are like the defensive players. Let's start with maybe the injury situation players. Now, obviously Fabian Schär, most likely you sell, right?
Yeah, I think his season's over, basically. So I think he's off the table.
Would that be to another Newcastle defender or?
I mean, I was lucky that I went with Dan Burn, and it was more from a budget perspective. But he seems to have a bit of threat in the box, not as much as you'd like from a guy who's like 400 feet tall when they get so many set pieces. But I think he's a very good option there. There's question marks whether Livramento is going to hold his place. I'm a big Hall fan because he came from Chelsea. He was amazing. I'm surprised he hasn't played more this season, but I don't think I wouldn't be confident of his minutes heading into this double. And then we're getting word that Trippier's been doing his fitness tests over in Dubai, getting ready for the double. But like I mentioned before when we were talking about goalkeepers, like Eddie Howe's not going to tell us if Trippier is going to be right to start.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Newcastle defenders are really hard because the fact that Trippier might come in for one of those games, it kind of puts Livramento and Hall at risk because you don't really
Yeah.
know. You know, he could play Livramento on the left and Trippier on the right, drop Hall. He could just drop Livramento and keep Hall on the left. So it kind of rules them all out almost. So you're kind of left with Dan Burn as like a safe option with some sort of attacking threat from a set piece.
Hmm. Fair enough. Yeah, I probably agree. I guess the other one is Kraft as the other centre back pairing, but like probably go for Dan Burn from the set piece.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the only reason to go for Kraft is if like financial reasons, I suppose. He's
yeah,
cheaper, isn't he? But
but
yeah,
then it's
I
not
don't.
too much of a difference between him and Dan Burn, I guess, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. But yeah. Okay, so that's Newcastle defense. Gusto. Now, I guess I'll start with Pete on this one. Is there a chance that Gusto could play both games? Obviously, we saw him come off the bench. But now we've seen Cucurella play this new inverted role for Chelsea, which I was listening to and FPL James as well, where he mentioned now you could probably play Thiago Silva in that centre back pairing. You play a back three of Thiago Silva, um, Disasi, and
Badashile.
Barishile. Yep, to
Yeah.
cover Thiago Silva. Which and then because of that Cucurella can invert, which kind of places a question mark over Gusto or even Gilchrist potentially. Where do you what do you think?
I think as far as minutes go for Gusto, like he will definitely play both games.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if he will start both games. That's the question. He seems to suffer a bit from the Reece James hamstring issues
Mm.
that have played him. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be getting him in this game week. If you've got him, I think you hold him and you play him. But he's definitely not on the shopping list
Mm.
for this game week because I couldn't be confident that he's definitely not going to play 180 minutes
Yeah.
anyway, even if he was fit, because he tends to run out of gas a bit or Pochettino just changes it up. But I think the most likely scenario is we see him start one of the games and we see him come off the bench for one of the games. So I think you're sort of looking at about 60 to 70 minutes and then maybe 30 to 40.
It's about 100 minutes. It's not too bad, I would
About
say.
100,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a defender that goes off after 65 minutes.
True.
Oh yeah.
That you
True.
might bank a clean sheet that gets, lost later. But yeah, I think the issue with Gusto is that Chalobah has been playing pretty well in that position. So
Yeah.
there's no pressing need to risk Gusto in both of these fixtures if there is some sort of minutes restriction they want to put on him, like they can be confident that Chalobah's going to do a decent job.
So what do you do if you have him? You just keep and just hope for the best if you have issues
Yeah.
like elsewhere.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think you do because as Pete said, like you may as well keep him and then just hope for the best. You're probably going to get a start out of him. It's probably not worth, a transfer. You're probably better off using your transfers in other areas.
Yeah, because even if you're looking to upgrade, even if you're looking to sell, you have to upgrade kinda. He's like 4.2 or something, and
Yeah.
like Brantford used to be cheap. Now Brantford has just gone to 4.5. So he's also pretty pretty up there with like Dan Burn in terms of level of pricing. So at this point, I guess probably keep unless you have that luxury to probably transfer. If you were looking for a Chelsea defender, though, who would you go for?
I, I don't think I could say with any certainty who's nailed because we saw on the bench in the last game, I think Colwell was back on the bench. Disasi was on the bench. And so I'm not 100% sure what is Pochettino's best backline. So I dare say Thiago Silva would definitely play at least one of these games with an eye of him definitely playing in 38 because that's going to be his last game for the club.
Yes.
And that game is at Stamford Bridge, so he will definitely play that. So I can see him playing one of these two. Like Andrew mentioned, Chalobah's been really good since his introduction. Now, whether he plays both games or Gusto starts one of the others, I'm not too sure. But we were talking about Cucurella before. Now, I've been such a big critic of him since he's moved to the club. He's been terrible. But the last few games, him playing in a slightly different position, more midfield based because Enzo's not there anymore, has definitely benefited him, and he's just grown in confidence. I can definitely see him holding his spot for the rest of the season.
So
Yeah.
he probably is more of a.
I think, yeah. I think if you had to pick one guy, I would lean towards Cucurella. And I would probably also go with Chalobah in second.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Chalobah, Pete, because correct me if I'm wrong, but he can play centre back or he can
Yeah.
play on the right. So he might play one game on the right, the one that they want to bench Gusto for, and then he might play centre back the other one. Maybe like Thiago Silva plays one and he plays the other, or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that sound like realistic?
Yeah, it does. And also, I mean, there's the word from the club is that Chalobah and Conor Gallagher are both on the selling chopping block because of the financial fair play and the pure profit, blah blah blah, because of their academy players. So in their eyes, maybe getting Chalobah playing more gets him more in the shop window and sort of jacks up his price a bit more. I don't know. It sort of works both. I mean, you could build your narrative, but yeah, as far as like performance wise goes, like Chalobah's been really good. Has a decent goal threat too. Scored one in the double game week. Came close to scoring again on the weekend. So yeah, but yeah, I would say Cucurella one, Chalobah second. But if you've got Gusto, I would definitely hold and I would definitely start.
Okay, fair enough. Andrew, anything else to add? Chelsea defense?
Not really. I guess the only thing I'll add is that to me, the fact that there is a little bit of doubt about which Chelsea defenders are nailed are going to play both, it just adds to the appeal of Petrovic. You know, you're getting that Chelsea defensive coverage and you're a little bit more secure in knowing you're going to get the two starts. A few weeks ago, there was a little bit of risk that he might lose his place to Sanchez, but I just don't think that. I think he's been doing really well recently, so I just don't think that risk is there anymore.
Fair enough. Okay, Spurs defense. Pedro Porro seems to be the more obviously probably nailed and even like preferred option because of his attacking threat. If you had to pick another, would it just be like Romero and that's it, or would Van de Ven?
I think it's just Romero.
Yeah.
Like I actually quite like Romero in the double game week because recently he seems to have upped his attacking threat. He seems to be very, very hungry to get up there in the corners. He's getting his head to a lot of set pieces. So yeah, I feel like over the double game week, I would not be surprised to see him score again. And yeah, I feel like it's more likely that he'll get you a goal than he'll get you a clean sheet, to be honest.
But it's Romero. He might also is very likely to get 2 yellow cards in the 2 fixtures.
He's more of a one red kind of guy.
Yes, more so.
You get the complete package.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, that's Spurs. United defense, I'm just gonna say just Dalot. That's it. Don't even think.
Is there anyone left at
Yeah,
United?
I know exactly. Is that I don't even know. At this point, I won't be surprised if Dalot also is injured.
You might get a game.
Yeah. Sign me up. But yeah, only Dalot, and even that, I would say like chances of clean sheet are very low. You're more hoping of the potential, or he passes it to someone for an assist and gets a goal, or gets a goal even potentially. But yeah, that's basically it. With Maguire though, since he's pretty cheap, your options for going are like depends on your budget, right? Where are you looking?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's sort of so I've already made a transfer. Like
Okay.
I had 2 free transfers. I've already made one. So spoiler alert, I already got rid of Watkins for Nicholas Jackson.
Okay, that answers my other question later. Fair enough.
And I'm waiting for that Bruno Fernandes news. So depending if Bruno plays or not, that sort of hinges what I do with the Maguire spot. So as far as my budget goes, it's tight. If with Bruno staying, that's fine. That's great. Maybe I move Slabhead to someone. I was maybe thinking Van de Ven, only because he's like ridiculously cheap.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really, I'm just putting all the eggs in the Burnley game basket. And then they got Sheffield United in 38 as well. So if I do need him, not that I would probably play him because I've got Vardiol and double Arsenal defense. So But in 38, there's that option there against Sheffield United. But like Spurs defense does not give me any confidence at all. I know I've been thinking more, maybe I just go Branthwaite.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that the best if you want like a like for like replacement, money wise, really think Branthwaite's the guy. He really has looked pretty good in terms of set piece threat as well. So
Yeah.
there's an opportunity there to get like not just a clean sheet, but potentially like a 15 pointer.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like I had him on my bench boost in game week 34 and he got me 20 points. The goal that he scored, was it against Liverpool?
Yes.
Yeah, like that's one of my greatest FPL memories of this season. Like it just spinning over the line before Calvert-Lewin could steal the goal from him. Like that was, but he's up and he's a threat in the box all the time, and that's why he earned that penalty the other day because other teams recognise that he is such a big threat, and they're focusing on him. But yeah, he's difficult to stop. So yeah, I really like him for Maguire if you don't have it, very much budget.
Fair enough. There's a question in the chat from Young Edis. Basically, sell Zabani or Ent Nouri. Now, obviously, Zabani I would probably sell. Ent Nouri is a very interesting one because of his attacking threat against Crystal Palace as well at home. What would you do with him? You had Ent Nouri.
Ooh. I mean, if you had him and he's in your best 11, if you're not bench boosting this week, then I guess you play him. Like you probably play higher up the pitch anyway. Not as high as he probably was playing a few weeks ago. But yeah, I don't. There's no problem holding him still.
Yeah, I agree. He's a fine hold. I'd be surprised if there wasn't somewhere else in your team that could use a transfer more.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you have, if your team's looking pretty good, and you don't need to use your free transfer elsewhere, like I don't think he's a bad sell either if you're in that scenario.
Fair enough.
For a double game weeker.
City defense, I guess, just Guardiola, or it's just a rotation minefield. Take your pick.
Yeah, I feel like the rest of them Pep Roulette can strike. Although, Akanji does tend to pop up every once in a while.
Yeah.
Nathan Ake, he's always
I think Walker is safe from Pep
Yeah.
Roulette, but he doesn't have the attacking threat of Gvardiol.
Fair
And
enough.
you probably don't want to go double Manchester City
Yep.
defense. You
No.
want to use two spots on attackers if you can.
Yep, true. And then the final thing is Arsenal defense. Now we spoke about Arsenal defense in terms of selling. Maybe people have two. Most people have like double, like Ben White or Gabriel Saliba combinations. Pete, you on a Ben White Gabriel combination?
Yep. I've got double Arsenal defense still. Yep.
What is the plan?
Well, I'm more than happy keeping them for the bench boost. They've been superb since I wish I went double Arsenal defense sooner rather than waiting till I got to I think it was game week 34 was when I went to the double and I decided to keep them on my wild card. So yeah, they've been fantastic. They're not going anywhere. They could easily keep a clean sheet at Old Trafford. So
fair enough.
That's not an issue.
I think that's the slight difference I have, like with having Rare compared to having like Ben White and Gabriel, because of the attacking threat that they both possess. Because I know, like, we saw Gabriel's like goal that got ruled out. Like, what a goal! So he's very well capable of scoring that. And even Ben White, we've seen from the attacking threat that he's capable of like getting assists and goals. That's the one thing where if I had those two instead of Rare, then I would have been more inclined to kind of keep, just because I know that the chances of attacking threat are there.
Yeah.
But because I have Rare, I'm like, the ceiling isn't as high. That's one of the reasons. But yeah, probably easy to keep. And then obviously game week 38, start both of them.
And also because the timing of the fixture, like they'll still be right in the title race. Like it's not going to be done. It could very well go to game week 38. So regardless if City beat Fulham, Arsenal is still right in the title race. So yeah, they'll be keen to play as good as they can, which means a good chance of a clean sheet.
And if Fulham pull out a miracle, they'll be even more.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that's basically defense. I think I don't know if we have anyone else to kind of touch on?
Not really.
No, I'm not even going to touch on Brighton. I'll just give it up on Brighton.
Nah.
I don't even consider them. Maybe when we get to Joao Pedro, we'll think about it, but I haven't even thought about Brighton. Andrew, anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, in terms of Brighton, I mean, there's some people that have got Van Heck who's out for the season.
Yeah.
But it's really the same discussion as
Maguire.
it was Maguire, the same kind of price range. So yeah, I think like even on free hit, I'm pretty much ignoring them in this double.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, midfield. This is okay, I'll tell you the template midfield now itself. You got Gordon, you got Palmer, Heung-min Son, Foden, and Bruno Fernandes, probably, I would say. Now, Bruno Fernandes is that injured out at the moment, which is where I guess we kind of have to wait and see on Friday with the press conference news what we get from that. First of all, I was under the assumption that he would play the last game because he's never missed a game for injury. I can't believe our injury crisis has got to the level that Bruno Fernandes is missing.
He was untouchable.
I know, exactly. I've seen the guy.
Has he even ever walked into the physio's room?
I don't know. I've seen him in like a protective boot, and 3 days after he's playing games. So I don't understand like how bad the injury was to actually keep him out of a game. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. If he's fit, play him, I guess, because double game weeks is pretty good in general, I would say, regardless of the fixture, because just takes a penalty and then you're looking at like 10 points from that game alone, potentially, with bonus. Unless they get hammered, then it's a different story. If he's not fit, this is where the whole the dominoes fall in terms of which players you pick, because Richarlison is one option. But then if you pick Richarlison, you obviously can't go for that goalkeeper spot or the second defensive spot like we mentioned. I want to also add to this discussion. Maduake, I think I pronounced it correctly. Been on decent form as well. Now that is also another domino where if you pick him, you probably can't go a Jackson or any defensive spot because people might already have a Palmer and a Petrovic. KDB is another possibility to go triple city attack potentially. Or you could just go the single game week Arsenal player. They're probably going to get annihilate United and go with like a Havertz or a Saka. But we've seen that doesn't necessarily always work at times as well, because I think Ian went for Havertz and kind of paid off almost, but not exactly. Thoughts? What to do with Bruno?
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I like KDB, but as you said, that that requires you to have a spot for KDB. Like a lot of people have got Haaland, Foden, and either Gvardiol or Edison already. So yeah, it kind of blocks you from a Man City defender, which normally I wouldn't mind, but Man City defenders seem to be some of the best defenders to choose this week. So yeah, I don't mind Richarlison at all. We've already talked about how good his game week 38 is as well. So even if he only gets, one start in this double, maybe half an hour off the bench in the other one, I think that's probably pretty good, especially if you're going to get a start against Sheffield United in game week 38. So I don't mind that at all. I mean, he's so much better, and yeah, he's so much better Tottenham is so much better when he's playing number 9. So they are going to give him as many minutes as they think he can handle, I think.
Yeah, well, Andrew was saying the reason he didn't start at Liverpool was just because he didn't have the fitness yet. So, because he started the Chelsea game last week. So thinking on that logic, he probably starts the Burnley game at home. You're looking at that, 3 goals, XG. It's pretty tasty. He's very cheap as well. So that is one move I am thinking as like my Bruno replacement strategy, like maybe going to Richarlison. The other option, like you mentioned, was getting an Arsenal mid. More, the Man United game is fantastic for Arsenal from an attacking perspective. And then 38, they've got Everton at home. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't at the end of last season, Arsenal play Everton at home in game week 38? And I'm pretty sure Everton were safe. And they were like still very hungover, and they absolutely belted him.
I think so,
Okay.
because I remember having Richarlison for this specific game week last season when he was in Everton shirt. And actually, I think I captained him. I don't know if I did. Oh, no, that
Yeah,
was
so
I
maybe
captained Will's Isaac. It was the week before, I think.
maybe it was a couple of seasons ago
Yeah.
then. Yeah, maybe I'm losing track a bit. But yeah, I remember a very similar scenario where Everton had to go to Arsenal, but they were safe, so they
Yeah.
just didn't care.
Yeah.
So that could be a quick score. Yeah, my thinking is, yeah, do I go with the double option of Richarlison? But as far as the double goes for Spurs, it's really just that Burnley game. It
Yeah.
feels like a single game, whereas I know if I get someone in like Kai Havertz, he's great for this game and he's great for the next game week as well. I don't have, it's like a future transfer I've already made as well.
Mm.
But like you said,
Yeah.
is it worthwhile just attacking? It's the
Yeah.
last double of the season. Like, attack it, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there's that many good midfield options in that have got double game weeks that like it does feel like a bit of a waste not to attack the double game week.
Mm.
Whereas with the defenders, there's not as many to choose from, so it feels a bit better to go for like a boring Branthwaite that only has one fixture. Whereas with the midfielders, I think you can attack the doubles.
Yeah.
What do you call Maduake? No? Yes?
Noni Madueke.
Yeah. Thoughts?
He's been really good. I think the last last 6 games he started, I think he's had like 2 goals, 2 assists, I think, over those 6 games. It's helped him that he's had these regular starts just because the Chelsea team is so decimated. But I will say that having Madueke in the side is 100 times better than Raheem Sterling, who's just so indecisive when he has the ball. Whereas Madueke, he's like the reject shot, and Robin. He does the same thing every time. He's just not as good as it. He's going to run in, he's going to cut in, and he's going to shoot on his left like every single time.
Yeah.
And from an FPL perspective, he's the best. He's so selfish.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
He just wants to score.
You want the selfish players for FPL, and that's exactly the kind of player he is. I don't mind him at all.
Yeah, he's fun. Like, no one owns him. I think he's like 0.6% owned.
Very low, I would assume. Yeah.
And Pochettino loves him as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely exciting. I actually really enjoy watching him play. I'm really happy the way the season's finished for him, because he hasn't really had the opportunities much this season, and he's been injured and stuff, but it's finishing on a bit of a high. So hopefully he can kick on. But yeah, as far as, if you're throwing out a punt this week and you can, you got the option there to get a third Chelsea attacker. Yeah, I'm not against that at all, because he's going to play both the games.
Do you have him over Jackson?
Ooh, well, I had this very same scenario and I went with Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think if it's a straight up choice between the two, I'm still going with Jackson, just because he's the focal point of that team. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And he's on a bit of a heater. So
yeah, that's true.
Bit like you, Pete.
I need to shave my hair. Since Jackson shaved his hair, he's turned into like prime Drogba.
I'm still waiting for you to put the blue streak through your hair.
Well, that's when he was bad.
Yeah, that's true. That is when he was bad.
Yeah. Okay. Any other midfielders? I guess I haven't mentioned. Obviously, apart from the template midfield, and we've I guess KDB is that other option as well. Single game, because we've touched on, like, Arsenal could be an option. I'm not going to even say Garnacho, because without Bruno, like, the entire attack is just useless.
I was going to ask you about Garnacho, whether it's
without Bruno, that attack, there's no one creating. That's the problem. Garnacho is good when Bruno is there because he's selfish, like Maduake.
Yeah.
But without Bruno, I don't know who's going to create for that team, which is what we saw from the Palace game. Obviously, they did get, like, Casemiro scored one but ruled out, and then Højlund also got something, but that was similar to the previous goalkeeper situation we had in the week as well. So that's different story. But I don't know. Without Bruno, I think the creativity is not there for the team. So I'd be very, very unlikely to go there potentially.
Yeah.
Any other midfielders?
The only
Right.
other one I can think of is like Rodri from City, but yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. That's kind of if you wanted two City midfielders and you couldn't afford KDB, then you might consider him. But I think I'd almost prefer Madueke than Rodri.
Fair enough. Okay. Cool. Forwards. The questionable third striker spot. And obviously Haaland and Isaac. If you don't have them in the team, get them in the team. Basically, simple as.
Yep.
That third striker spot. You have Jackson, who has decided to, who has the Michael Jordan meme of I took this personally when we started comparing Jackson with Darwin Núñez, and he was like, yeah, I took this personally. He decided to show that he's a better player than Darwin Núñez. So Jackson has gone right on top in terms of the watch list, in terms of form and everything. Your other options, obviously, Callum Wilson. But we just saw like a tweet with regards to a potential hamstring, so might have to wait and see what Eddie Howe says about that. Although you never can trust Eddie Howe, to be honest. So
Yeah.
When I saw that Callum Wilson news, I just thought of that Abe Simpson meme where he walks in the bar, he puts his hat down, and then he turns around, he puts the hat back on.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you have potentially Callum Wilson if fit.
If
Yeah.
for 2 games.
Yeah, exactly. You have Joe Pedro, who's on penalties for Brighton, who's an extremely budget option if people can't afford someone. There's no forward from Spurs because they're all like Werner is injured. Chelsea, we've spent Jackson. United, Højlund, but again, no service. So,
no one passes to him.
yeah,
Onana
exactly.
passes to him, actually.
But just get Onana. But if Bruno is not there, he could be on bench potentially. But no service, that's a problem. And then City, obviously, it's Haaland. And you're not going to go Alvarez because you prefer Foden, Guardiola, and KDB over all of that.
Yeah.
And Alvarez is also not going to start 2 games necessarily. And then obviously you have the single game week players where maybe you have a Mateta from Crystal Palace who's on decent form, but just a single game week. Don't really have anyone else.
Well, Watkins is still
Oh no,
popular.
Watkins needs to be sold. After that display, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, they've got to go to Greece
Yeah.
on Friday morning our time and overturn a 2-goal deficit in that game. So I think all the attention is going to be there.
Yeah, I think at this point, like Villa have got to a stage where the games are catching up and they're kind of like limping over, trying to make sure that they secure that top 4 spot while limping over still. So I don't know if I would want Watkins. I need to sell Watkins, which is why, who do I sell him to? It's Jackson. Do I have to accept that I was wrong and go, fine, Jackson, you win. Here, come into the team.
That's what I did.
Yeah. I really, really like Callum Wilson. And I think that he would have been a really good calculated punt to go over Jackson. But the fact that this tweet's come out with, basically saying there's a rumor that he may have hurt his hamstring, and that in the same breath, this guy's said that he's not sure if it's true or not, but he's just saying that that's the rumor. The problem is because you can't trust Eddie Howe, you almost can't take the risk. It's not like other teams where you can say, oh well, we'll wait for the press conferences. It almost just draws a line through him, unfortunately, which is really disappointing because he was going to be 100% in my free hit. I really liked him as a punt. But yeah, I think it's just really straightforward now. You kind of just have to go Haaland, Isaac, and Jackson.
Or hold the phone.
Yeah.
And Cuckoo
No.
made an appearance on the weekend.
Yeah.
Would he play both games? Nah.
No. But it'd be a story for the grandkids. Like, imagine that.
I guess.
Yeah, good.
So I was just going to say, I guess, you guys are both looking at it from the point of view of a bench boost where you're playing 8 attackers. But if you're not on a bench boost, then I guess you choose whether you're going to play 5 mids and 2 forwards, or 3 forwards and 4 mids.
I'll play the 5 mids.
Yeah.
Immediately, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then you're going to play Haaland and yeah, is that what you're going to do? You're going to play Haaland and Isak and then 5 mids, and then if that's the case, then you may as well just downgrade that third striker to
Mm.
someone cheap to free up funds. Is there any point in getting Jackson in only to put him on the bench?
But because we're bench boosting, I kind of want him. But if I
Yeah.
wasn't bench boosting, then I would even just like go like see who has a good game week 38. I don't know what
Yeah.
Crystal Palace's game week 38 was. They have
But
Aston Villa.
Chelsea's in
Okay, maybe not.
38 is Bournemouth at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like you almost, obviously you guys. I think if you're bench boosting, then those three forwards are the best three. But if you're not, you know,
Joe
maybe
Pedro
you do just get yeah, or maybe you
against
do
Man
just get
United.
Jackson in. Just get Jackson in,
Yeah.
bench him,
Yeah.
and then have him for home Bournemouth in 38.
Yeah, I guess it depends on like what you want to do with the transfers in game week 38. Like if you wanted to get a Saka and finances are tight and you need that money, then you go, okay, maybe Jackson, just keep on him this week. And maybe I just go like a Joe Pedro just because he has a double as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just on such good form that I don't know. This is where when we get to that team attack and team defense, I'm like, we'll see Chelsea's team attack when they're away. Different story when they're home. And they were at home against West Ham, and that was one of the reasons why I captained Palmer, because I was just like, West Ham are going to get annihilated, and they did, but unfortunately Palmer just got one.
Yeah, it was the first one too when he got that first goal,
Yeah.
because he was my captain. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm in for a very nice night, and then Gallagher missed that 0.9
Yes.
XG chance from a
Yeah.
Palmer cross. He would have. He almost had a goal and assist, within the first half an hour of the game, and who knows what would have happened after that. But
Yep.
anyway, sliding doors moment.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I can't even remember what the point I was trying to make.
yeah.
I got distracted by how disappointed I was with the Palmer captaincy.
Jackson, basically. That's it. No other
Yeah.
choice.
I think so.
Any case to be made of any other striker? No. I wish I was a bit more optimistic on United, but I am not, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have recommended Højlund, but yeah, no.
No, there's just the last few weeks, it just hasn't been there for Højlund.
Yeah.
If he had picked up a few goals in that run, then possibly. But yeah, that plus, you add on top of that, we don't even know if Bruno's going to be there to help with the service. Not that he really passes that much to him.
Yeah.
No one at United tends to pass to Højlund. That's the biggest issue that Ten Hag has to fix. But yeah.
I just really don't like the double for United full stop,
Yeah.
with or without Bruno. Like, I think when Arsenal is one of the double, you almost don't have a double. Like you're getting, you can expect appearance points.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about forwards, but for defenders, I'm not even sure you can expect that. Like you're always going to start off with a 0 or a 1.
Yeah. Most likely, because they'll concede at least 2.
At least 2.
Yeah.
And then, if you're picking up yellow cards because, you're constantly under the pump or you concede 4, like you can very easily get a 0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't like the Man United double game week at all.
Yeah, fair enough. Even though here I am still thinking about Onana as an option.
Yeah.
But I feel like that might be purely like financial, because Vicario is like 0.3 expensive, and then I had to see my moves in terms of 38, whether that affects anything as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So yeah, I guess Jackson is the answer. Now, captaincy. We'll touch with like triple captaincy as well. Is Haaland, obviously we've seen what Haaland has been capable of doing after going against him. I will add though, 2 penalties doesn't happen every time in a game. So it is a bit fortunate. I would put. I still think there was room to go against Haaland. And if he didn't get those 2 pens, which obviously you can't say because he did get it, but there is a case to be made. But this week, are people going to be more scared to go for Haaland now that he's done what he's done? Or is there still a differential captain?
I don't think there is. I think that I think you just got to go for Haaland, unfortunately.
Even if you're chasing?
Yeah, I think so. I think even if you're chasing, I just feel like there's places elsewhere in your team that you can differentiate.
Yeah.
I mean, I just cannot see Haaland not scoring in both of these games. That's Yeah, it's really what it comes down to. Like I I went against Haaland. Like I don't even have Haaland in my normal team. So I got punished hugely by him last week, and so maybe that's why I'm so scared to go against him again. But yeah, I just think that he looked like his old self from last season when he was just inevitable. So I think I just don't think I don't think it's an educated punt. I think I think you just got to take your differentials elsewhere in the team, unfortunately.
Yeah. And looking at the combined XG for those two fixtures, like it's pushing, it's almost
6
at
goals.
6.
Mm.
If you dare say he's probably going to have 50% goal involvement.
Mm.
So
At least 2 goals and an assist would be almost a minimum that you'd expect.
And knowing Haaland, he could do that in one game.
Mm.
So
Before half time.
exactly. So yeah, I think it's I don't see. I understood last week, like taking on Haaland because the form wasn't there. The fixtures for other teams were really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, like you thought Chelsea was going to smash West Ham.
And
So
it,
then you both captained
Yeah.
Chelsea players in that fixture. Now, if I told you Chelsea's going to score 5 goals in that game, you go, sweet,
Yeah.
I'm going to take that on.
Yeah. I'll captain Palmer again. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. But in this scenario, it's 180 minutes of Erling Haaland,
Yes.
which is the frightening thing. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't try and be too cute with it this week. I still think it is head and shoulders the best captaincy pick this week. And if you do still have your triple captaincy, it's a phenomenal one because they can almost solidify the league with these two games. And that time, I know there's been a lot of talk about City struggles against Tottenham. That was different. That was against a Conte Tottenham and a Jose Mourinho Tottenham. So that's sitting behind the ball, waiting for one or two chances and trying to go on the counter. And Postecoglou Tottenham don't play like that.
No.
They leave the back door wide open. They play on the edge of the halfway line, and they try and create. And that's just perfect for someone like we saw on the weekend. Haaland just running in with like so much space.
And given that Spurs fans are like, yes, please come and score as many as you want.
Yes, they're not going to be crying out to hold the defensive line and stuff. So
it's tough.
It's just Haaland.
But is there a case to be made for Isak? Because home they're pretty good, and they're about to face the worst defense in the league in terms of United.
Yeah, there is, but then if they get a penalty and Callum Wilson's on the pitch,
that's the problem. Now
is he
I'm
going to take it?
Yeah,
you know that if City get a penalty, Haaland's taking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Isak this week.
Yeah,
I think he's got potential to go big, but I still don't think it's anywhere near where Haaland can go. So I think that I think that you could do it if you're 20 points behind your mini league rival or whatever, and you just have to take a punt. I just don't think you can expect it to pay off. It's just something if you have to go against the template for a particular reason, then I think Isak's a good option, but I just wouldn't do it unless I had to.
That's why I'm like wondering, like I feel like top 100k is kind of gone at this point, like 30 odd points.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, like 30 points.
That's what I was like. If I go differential captain and if it pays off, then it can be caught in 2 weeks.
That's the kind of scenario where maybe you could do it, because if you don't care whether you are 150k or 400k,
doesn't matter.
Then go for it.
Yeah.
To give yourself the opportunity. But I mean, it depends on your risk appetite, I suppose. Like I wouldn't want to tumble from 150k to 400k, but if you're willing to do that to give yourself the chance to make up that ground to get to that top 100k, then go for it.
The only other problem is that survival of the Australian Elite League. When you know everyone behind you has got a Captain Haaland regardless.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
play the straight bat.
I'm just gonna defend, I'm just gonna stay in the grease, just keep playing and just like prevent everyone else from just like jumping over you as well at the same time. So you're like it's a tough position to be in.
Also, you need to keep in the back of your mind that a lot of the managers with the triple captaincy will probably be putting it on Haaland. So
Yes.
his ego is going to be
Way more than
insane.
200. Yes, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's as soon as he touches the ball and you don't have him captain, it's just going to crucify you from the get-go.
I actually don't think you have to, Ryan. Like you said, you're 30 points outside top 100k.
Yeah.
I think with a bench
30...
boost,
Let me check. But like even with the bench boost, the problem is everyone else has bench boost as well. It's like 80% of the top 100 players
yeah.
yet to
But a
play.
lot of are you
37.
gonna? A lot of people need to take hits though. Are you in that boat?
No.
No. So you're probably gonna start.
I have
4
14
points.
yeah, at least 14 doublers with Gabriel. Yeah.
You're probably going to start 4 points ahead of other bench
Yeah.
boosters, and then it's not, if you make a couple of differential
transfers.
pick, differential transfers, then you could easily, easily claw back, say 10 to 15 points this week, and then game week 38, that's when you go for your
Get made in.
differential
Yeah.
captain if you have to. Although Haaland's got West Ham at home, so
But you never know, because if the title is over by then it's a different runner. Yeah.
Exactly. You could wait till game week.
Yeah.
You can wait till game week 38 to make that decision. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think if you just look at it at 15 points per week, then maybe go for it. Like, yeah, think of it that way.
Yeah, fair
Rather than
enough.
trying to make it all up at once.
Yeah, true. Mira is saying it can be done. She had back-to-back 50% rank increases.
Yeah.
It's and risk. That's the thing, right? So that it's like the fine margins of navigating between risk and reward. Yeah. Okay. You guys have convinced me to keep it on Haaland, even though I was so determined to go for Isak.
I mean, it depends like how you enjoy watching like Premier League football as well.
Yeah, that's true.
In relation to FPL, like I know myself, I'm more of like the safe kind of manager.
Yep.
And I love watching football, and I just know that come Tuesday morning when I get up in the morning to watch Spurs City, if I don't have Haaland as captain, and the second he's on the ball, I'm going to want him to miss rather than scoring.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whereas if Isaac's scoring, that's great. I'm going to be celebrating Isaac goals. I'm going to be celebrating Palmer goals and Jackson goals. Whereas Haaland, I wouldn't want him to do anything if I didn't have him as captain. So yeah,
even if your player is assisting him, you still want him to miss.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Tough position to be in. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, we'll go with the Haaland captaincy and then try and go Hail Mary in the final week if that needs to be done. Okay. Let's wrap it up with team attack. So this is the team attack of the last 6 game weeks. City are on top, which I guess kind of leads to the Haaland talk, but we'll get to the away and home charts as well. Liverpool, Chelsea, and Newcastle are there in the top 4. And then at the bottom, Luton, Wolves, West Ham, and Everton. Anything to add?
Not necessarily. I mean, Chelsea have had some big scores the last few games. We split 4 and against when you think about that Arsenal trip. But yeah, I mean, looking at those big chances created, City at the top, and we were talking about potentially taking on Haaland.
True.
It's interesting to see Chelsea ahead of Man City on expected goals for the last 6 weeks. You wouldn't have ever expected that.
I think before the last game, Chelsea were higher than City. So I think City have gone up because of that last game, even though Chelsea did score 5. Because it was Liverpool and Chelsea, when I was tracking this before, they were on the top 2. But if you were to go to team attack away, you have City in 4th, Chelsea go even more lower because away form not as great. This is where I'm like, Jackson, do I really want to go there? Is there any other forward? I'm like, no, there isn't any. So that's why I'm like, yeah, in a tough spot, but probably have to go to Jackson because there's just no other forward. And then City 4th, and then the bottom you got the likes of Villa, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, and Luton. I wish I saw this Villa one before, but no, here we are. And again, you have Newcastle as well. So one of their games away against United, although I will say United was defending the league at the moment, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, anything to add? Away team attack?
Oh. Yeah, I think from the Chelsea perspective, it's not going to be huge scores Chelsea will put up, but I'm still enjoying having the double Chelsea attack in Jackson and Palmer with those fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually the reason why I was so keen to go for Callum Wilson over Jackson, because I knew that the vast majority of the game would have Jackson. Almost no one would have Callum Wilson, and I'm not that confident in Chelsea in terms of how many goals they're going to score in this double game week. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe only score 3 goals in the double.
Mm.
2 in one game, 1 in the other, and
Yeah.
then Jackson's goal involvement might only be one of those 3 goals. So if you look at it from that perspective, like I was really excited about going for Callum Wilson because I expected, in my mind, I expected Newcastle to score like 4 or 5, even 6 goals in this double game week, and that he would be involved in maybe 40-50% of those. So I saw it as a really good opportunity, and it would have been a good opportunity for you as someone that wants to differentiate with the forward spot. But
I'm
yeah,
picking a template player now.
yeah. Just the rumor is really that's coming out about his possible injury is really annoying for that reason. But
I guess that's where maybe Joao Pedro, because if we think that it's not going to be too much from Chelsea away from home, and Joao Pedro having 1 game at home and 1 game away, and on penalties as well. The only problem is Brighton haven't been
No.
on the best of form.
But I can see that being like a 1-1 kind of game, or like a 1-0 one way or the other. Like, I think it's not going to be a high scoring game for either team. That's the issue.
Plus, they still haven't scored a goal from open play for like 5 games.
Does the Pedro?
Penalty,
Yeah, he missed the penalty.
Yeah, I suppose that counts, doesn't it? Yeah.
But yeah,
the technicality.
You're right though.
Yeah, that's the thing. So probably not. And then you got team attack at home. City, obviously, and they're not playing at home. But then Newcastle, if you look at that home game, really high up there. Spurs are also up there, which is where I guess we're hoping for that Burnley fixture to do something. And maybe even the City fixture, they'll get attacking returns potentially, because they have been a somewhat boogie team. And City do tend to concede the odd opportunity, which we've seen. Bottom, though, you got the likes of Brighton, which doesn't help for Joao Pedro, I guess. Luton and Wolves, Everton as well on the bottom there, which kind of like leads into the Pickford triple bonus if they keep a clean sheet. Then defense, City on top, Arsenal second, Fulham third. Interesting. Should be a very interesting opening double game week picture between the two. Brentford up there as well, with Flecken keeping like double-digit returns in terms of clean sheets. And Reguilon just, even with the yellow card, he tends to find bonus as well. And then at the bottom, this is why I was like thinking of Isaac. Look at that, United and West Ham. And Spurs. Okay, you put Spurs there, so Haaland also kind of has to be there as well. So that's the thing. And then Aston Villa as well. Anything to add? Defense?
Yeah, if you look at once again, you look at where like Nottingham Forest are, like they're surprisingly high up. So that's another reason why I wasn't big on Chelsea.
Yeah.
From an attacking point of view in this double game week, Brighton aren't too bad either. So, yeah.
And Forest had to win this game, by the way, if they want to
exactly. It's
relegation and all.
One of their biggest games of the season. So, but yeah, Fulham really surprises me.
I think the only thing is, I think if we go to they're at home, I think Fulham, not great at home.
Yeah, right.
So
they play differently at home, a bit more open.
So I guess that leads into the whole Haaland conversation of being pretty good as an option. Whereas Spurs, defensively at home, not too bad, I would say. Although they may get carved open against City. So it's that Burnley fixture that you're kind of banking on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else to add on this home table before I switch back to the away table?
Nope.
No, not really.
Away table, you got Arsenal on top. So double Arsenal defense against United is not a bad shout. Then you got Liverpool, Fulham away. So Fulham away are really good. Fulham at home, they probably play more expansive, try to please the crowd, and then get ripped apart, probably. Then you got City, Brentford, and Forest. And at the bottom, you got United, Burnley, West Ham, Luton, and Spurs. Thank God Spurs are not away. Anything to say?
United defense worse than Luton.
Yeah.
See, this is why
That's
I
what I
wanted
was
to
looking
captain.
That's another reason why I'm big on Newcastle attack.
Yeah.
This double game week, like
I know
they've got
all
good
spots.
good fixtures.
Yeah, I know. For attacking players, it just points to get in.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no one else that apart from Isak and Gordon, like who else is there that you could take a punt on from Newcastle in terms of attack? Like, assuming that Wilson's not an option, there's really no one else, is there?
Yeah, because everyone else is like they'll just pop in with a goal, but you can't guarantee. Cool. All right. Andrew, you're on the free hit. You got us 2 free hit drafts, one with Callum Wilson in there and one without Callum Wilson. So I'll read it for those listening on the audio. The one with Callum Wilson is you got Petrovic in goal, Guardiola, Pedro Porro, Cucurella, Son, Foden, Gordon, Palmer, Haaland, Isak, and Wilson in a 3-4-3. The bench, I guess I'll mention that Richarlison is on the bench alongside Pickford and Branthwaite, but it doesn't really matter too much because free hit. But your non-free hit one, I guess the differences are you have Gabriel, Dan Burn, and Romero who enter.
Oh, sorry, the other one?
The non-free hit. Sorry, the free hit one without Callum Wilson.
Yeah, there's just 2 different free hit drafts. Yeah, so the one, well, I guess I've got a couple of options. With the one without Callum Wilson, I could either just take Wilson out and put Jackson in, and then all that would require is me to remove maybe Cucurella, because obviously I can't have 4 Chelsea players. I don't know who I'd go to. Romero, maybe someone like that. So I could do it quite simply. The other option though is to the other option I suppose is just to completely rejig it, and the other free hit draft I've got is extremely different. It's got 3 City attackers instead of having Gvardiol, it's got Foden and KDB in the midfield. And then just a few different defenders. So I haven't decided yet whether the Callum Wilson thing is going to just be rejigging a couple of positions, like maybe bringing in Jackson instead of Wilson, or whether I want to go a different option and not just leave it there, but also completely change it around. I suppose if I guess the dominoes fall because if I'm taking Wilson out, then that third Newcastle spot is going to be probably a defender like Dan Burn, as you said, and then if that's the case, then I can put Dan Burn in the Gvardiol position, and then that gives me the opportunity to bring in KDB into the midfield. So there's so many moving parts to it. One player changes, and then there's a huge domino effect. So I need to figure out whether I want to stick to having, Haaland, Foden, Gvardiol, or do I actually want to completely reconfigure it and then go all in on Man City attack, like we've seen that they're expected to score 6 goals. It'd be pretty exciting to have Haaland, Foden, and KDB, and you'd almost feel like you're going to get at least a piece of every single goal that's scored, and you might even get the goal and the assist on some of the goals that they score. So that's pretty exciting. And then you can take, almost taking a punt that they're going to do the thing that they always do and concede 1 random goal in each game, and and that way, you're not really losing much by not having a defender. So yeah, those are the 2 kind of options that I'm tossing around. There's just so few defenders that that I like that's the reason why I was initially leaning towards having Gvardiol, just because there's not that many other defenders that I like. But I could double up on the Spurs defense and really go all in on the possibility that they get that clean sheet against Burnley.
Would you be a 3-5-2 if you were to go triple City attack?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if I was going to go triple City attack, it would mean that I would bench, like Jackson would be my first sub, just in case there was a random injury to someone that was unexpected, and then he could just come in, because money's not really an issue. But yeah, so if I was going to go for the triple City attack, it would be 5 midfielders and then benching Nicholas Jackson. Whereas if I was going to go for just the double City attack, I'd be more tempted just to have Richarlison as my first bench. Regardless of who I bench, Richarlison or Jackson, there's a likelihood that it could really hurt benching a lot of points. But on the other hand, on a free hit, why wouldn't you have a really strong option as your first bench just in case? So I might be in for some bench points pain, but I think it's important to have a really good first bench option.
Yep. Fair enough. At least you'll get some, like, it's better to have a good overall points compared to when we preheated in 29, and I feel like my bench scored more than my starting level because I had Fulham players on my bench.
Yeah, I think I didn't free hit in 29, but I think I scored about 12 points, maybe 14. It was, oh,
You saved a chip.
yeah, I saved a chip. I was happy about that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Andrew's team. Let's go over to Pete, who is on a bench boost, and he's got Petrovic in goal, Guardiola, Gabriel, Ben White, Foden, Son, Bruno Fernandes, Palmer, Isak, Jackson, and Haaland with armband alongside with Onana, Gordon, Dan Burn, and a Maguire who needs to potentially move out depending on what happens to Bruno Fernandes.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I've got 2 free transfers. Like I said, Jackson's come in for Watkins. I just wanted to attack the double there, and yeah, Maguire. If Bruno's fine, I don't know. Maguire might go to. It's probably either going to be Van der Ven or Branthwaite. I'm
don't
not
have
too sure.
Budget for Poro, right?
No, I can only get Porro if Bruno's out. So I could swap a Bruno to maybe a Richarlison. It's either going to be Richarlison or Havertz, and then that gives me heaps of budget, and I can upgrade Maguire to Porro. That does mean I take a -4. So I think I'd prefer Bruno to play. So hopefully we get some news, some leaks pre-deadline about Bruno's fitness and his availability. So yeah, it's just that's the only reason Maguire's still there. I'm just waiting to see. It all hinges on Bruno.
Yeah, fair enough. That point.
Yeah.
There could be an argument, Pete, that maybe even having, regardless of Bruno's fitness, maybe Richarlison and Porro is, with the -4 is better than Bruno and Maguire, or Bruno and would you say the other option was Branthwaite?
Or yeah, or Van der Ven.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. If Bruno's fit, I still think 2 home fixtures, Old Trafford, penalties.
You're not expecting anything against Arsenal, though.
Not really, but
Newcastle at home against Newcastle, they could score 1 or 2.
Arsenal's history at Old Trafford is
Isn't
actually
great.
pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not good.
Yeah.
No, I agree, but this is a very special time for Manchester United in their history. So let's not compare how Arsenal have gone up against like Rio Ferdinand versus how they've gone up against like Casemiro and Johnny Evans at centre back, and not prime Johnny Evans. Like this is a decade past his prime.
Washed Johnny
Evans, like
still probably
like rejected from Leicester. Johnny Evans.
Still probably the best defender in the club. Even though washed up, but
like no doubt.
Such has been the downfall. But anyways, we digress. There have been people who have been thinking of like moving Bruno Fernandes out, get Richarlison in, even if like he's fit or not fit is a different story. People have been thinking about doing that move.
Yeah, if we get the news that he's out, then I'll probably get Richarlison, because also then they've got Sheffield United in 38, so you still play Richarlison in 38 as well. It's a really good fixture, but I'll wait and see what I do there.
You can spread that -4 in your mind across 2 game weeks, right?
Yeah.
So make up 2 points this week, make up 2 points in 38, and then you get the extra transfer in 38 for another upside punt.
Yeah.
It's only 4 points. It's nothing.
My other big decision is, do I go like full on bench wankery and, leave Gabriel and White in my starting 11?
Technically, your bench boost is Gabriel and White.
Yeah,
only if I put him there.
Yeah, I would. In your mind, who your worst 4 players are, and that's how in your mind, you judge your bench boost. But it's always fun just to put, put Isak on the bench.
Yeah, I know. You might as well just at this point put like Palmer as well there on the bench. Oh, but you have the vice captaincy on him just in case.
Yeah. It'd be Isak, Foden, and maybe like Son.
Yeah.
Pad the bench boost. Oh, I had a 40-point bench boost.
And Petrovic, obviously bench Petrovic as well.
All right, so that's Pete's team. And then this is mine. So I've got Petrovic in goal, Dan Burn, Pedro Porro, Guardiola in defense, Gordon, Bruno Fernandes, Palmer, Foden, Heung-min Son, The armband is on Isaac, but looks like it'll change to Haaland. And then on the bench, I've got Rea, Dalot, Gabriel, and Watkins. This is kind of where I was in the, like, yesterday I was like, do I even want to play the bench boost at this point? I'm like looking at this bench and I'm like, if Bruno Fernandes is also out, at that point I'm like, yeah, I wasn't even sure what to do. So right now the plan is Watkins to Jackson, and then it would be Rea to, I think I might go Rea to Onana just to keep that spot, even if Bruno Fernandes is fit this week, to go for Richarlison next week as an upside punt.
Yeah.
I might potentially, I don't know, maybe I should just do the Richarlison move this week, take the hit, and so that allows me to also get the Arsenal player for the Arsenal attacker for next week, for like Anthony Gordon maybe, because away form slightly different, Brentford.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I haven't decided where exactly to go with that.
Yeah,
Mm.
interesting. I guess you just wait until you get more information about
Yeah.
Bruno, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. He is a slight differential at this moment. He's like, in terms of EO, compared to all the rest of the midfielder, he's like at 30% or something. And I think
Yeah.
he'll remain there down, even with like the Gameweek passing. I don't think anyone's buying Bruno. So it's more about people who have him, whether they're holding or selling at this point.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Watkins to Jackson will most likely happen.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty logical move.
Cool. That's basically it. So thank you to Andrew and Pete as well, and shout out to everyone who's been in the chat as well and has been watching. Make sure if you reached up to this point to hit that like button, and subscribe as well. And Pete, do you have anything to plug?
I think
should we
we'll
give it to
be. I think we'll be doing our podcast. I think we're going to do a morning pod, aren't we? Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Possibly.
we'll have to chat offline about that. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it
Your
out.
people talk to my people. We'll work it out. But
Yeah,
we'll get something out.
I just realized I'm having some. I'm having a guy come to install some blinds tomorrow. But anyway, we'll figure it out.
Jesus. It's hard to get good help, right?
I'm hard to track down. We'll do it. We'll figure it out. Sometime tomorrow we'll record.
He doesn't captain Haaland on a 4-goal weekend. He's unavailable for a podcast this week.
We've already talked about Haaland enough. I'm going to be just talking about Munoz all day tomorrow. The whole pod's just all about Munoz.
Salah and his 13 pointer, maybe how he could have got more.
100%. Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's all right.
There's one question on the chat. Shah to who? Looking at Branthwaite, Dan Burn, or Romero? And I think this is a bench boost. Oh, I have another question as well to add to that. But first, I'll probably answer that one.
Yeah, I like Dan Burn.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, Dan Burn's a sensible option. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle don't keep any clean sheets, though. I don't mind Romero as a little bit of a higher upside punt than Dan Burn because he's more likely to score a goal. So you kind of you're really banking on either an attacking return or a clean sheet against Burnley. But I don't mind it as a little bit of a more of an upside pick.
Fair enough. And to add on to that, if you had your bench boost and triple captain's chip left, which I know a few do, including Tiger and Gouda, where would you play your bench boost this week and triple captaincy next week?
I would play my bench boost this week because you're getting 8 extra fixtures this week compared to 4 next week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And potentially leaks next week to know who's starting and whatnot for triple captaincy punt.
Yeah. I'd be more inclined to get the upside with the most fixtures for the bench boost. That's the big upside with bench boost is just trying to use it on the double to get as many fixtures as possible. More chance to get lucky, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it depends though, because there are a lot of people that are playing their bench boost this week with a couple of Arsenal single game week defenders, right? So they're not getting 4 extra fixtures. They might only be getting 2 extra fixtures.
Yeah.
In which case, do you triple captain Haaland, which is clearly the best triple captain if you're taking the bench boost out of the equation, and then next week the Arsenal single fixtures that you would be bench boosting this week are, it's a better fixture, more of a clean sheet banker.
Mm.
So
I
I think
suppose
it just depends on the mix of players you've got in your team.
I was going to say, like, a lot of the teams that are doubling this week have really good fixtures next week anyway.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. Yeah, like Spurs obviously is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we'll end it there. There was the other question with regards to Fernandes to who, but I guess we've answered that with regards to like going to Richarlison, most likely. That's the case.
I think so.
Yep. All right. Thank you to Pete and Andrew. Their links will be in the description as well, where you can follow them on X or Twitter, whichever way you call it. FPL Point Break, Andrew, and FPL Side Net Podcast from Pete. Both of them, you can find them also on all your audio platforms with regards to the FPL Side Net Podcast. Anything else to add? No? Yeah.
No, just thanks for having us on.
No
Yeah,
worries.
and congrats on another season, slaying it, doing about 400 episodes a week.
I don't know how much. I'm losing count at this point between Scout and this, and now maybe Euro Fantasy as well. Probably something during that as well. But yeah, if you've reached up to this point, thank you very much. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and we will see you all for the deadline stream, which thankfully is at a good time for Australia. But yeah, thank you all for watching. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.